You ever have one of those moments where you stop and you look at your life and you quietly think, where's all this actually going? Not because your life is falling apart, not because you're lazy, not because you're irresponsible, but because somewhere deep down you feel like you've been moving for years without feeling connected to where your life is actually heading anymore. And I think that a lot of men today are secretly carrying that feeling. They're functioning, they're working, they're providing, they're handling their responsibilities, but internally they feel directionless. Like life became wake up, work, survive, repeat. And in this video, I want to talk about why so many men today feel internally lost internally while even looking completely responsible on the outside. Because movement and direction, they're not the same. And I think that a lot of men become experts at responsibility while slowly losing connection, while slowly losing connection with direction. And I've had seasons in my own life, where I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. I'm going to work, paying bills, showing up for my family, handling those responsibilities, and externally, everything probably looked fine, but internally, something felt off. Not dramatic, not crisis level, just off. Like I was constantly moving, but couldn't tell you what I was actually moving towards anymore. And that's a strange feeling as a man, because nobody really teaches you how to recognize directionlessness. They teach you how to survive, how to provide, how to keep pushing, how to be responsible, but nobody really teaches you what happens when your entire life becomes maintenance instead of meaning. And I think that's where a lot of men quietly end up. Not broken, not failing. They're just, they're just drifting. And one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a man is confusing movement with direction, because our culture rewards movement, busy schedules, constant work, always grinding, always handling something. But a man can be so busy for years and still eternally feel lost. And that's a part that nobody talks about. See, you can wake up every day with a full calendar and still not feel connected to your own life. Because with movement answers, what am I doing? But you know what direction answers? Direction answers, why am I doing it? And a lot of men stop asking that particular second question, not because they don't care, but because survival mode slowly trains you to focus on what's immediately in front of you: bills, deadlines, responsibilities, pressure, expectations. And after years of living like that, something inside starts going quiet. Not all at once, but slowly. You stop checking in with yourself. You stop asking what you actually want. You stop thinking about where your life is headed. And eventually you become extremely productive while internally feeling disconnected from your own direction. I think a lot of men lose direction because responsibility slowly becomes their entire identity. You become the provider, the husband, the worker, the reliable one. And those things matter. I mean, they do. But somewhere in the middle of carrying all those roles, a lot of men stop knowing who they are outside of what they do for everybody else. And that disconnect builds quietly, because when every day becomes about performance, maintenance, and surviving pressure, you slowly lose connection with desire. Not lust, not selfishness. I mean, real desire. like vision and curiosity and purpose and passion and direction. The eternal compass starts getting quieter and quieter. And eventually a man wakes up one day realizing, you know what? I know what everybody needs from me, but honestly, I don't know what I want anymore. And that realization hits deep because now life feels more like an obligation without inspiration, responsibility without internal connection, movement without without no direction. And I think another reason so many men feel directionless today because survival mode has become a permanent thing for them. Survival mode was never supposed to be a lifestyle. It was supposed to just be temporary. But a lot of men spent so many years surviving that surviving becomes normal to them. Stress becomes normal. Pressure becomes normal. Emotional suppression becomes normal. Functioning while exhausted becomes normal. And when survival mode becomes your normal state, you stop asking yourself the deeper questions because deeper questions require stillness. And stillness can feel dangerous to a man who's been surviving for many years. So instead, he stays busy. He keeps moving. He keeps grinding. He keeps functioning because movements distracts him from having to confront the deeper reality. I honestly don't know where my life is going anymore. And bro, that's heavier than most men would ever want to admit out loud. And I honestly think that one of the biggest silent struggles men face today is what I call the quiet drift. It's not a dramatic collapse, not a public breakdown. It's just slow internal disconnection. You still go to work, you still show up, you still handle responsibilities, but internally, you feel less connected to your own life every year. Like you're becoming a ghost inside a life you built for yourself. And the scary part is, from the outside, nobody notices because you still look like you're functional. That's why so many men suffer in complete silence because male burnout doesn't always look emotional. Sometimes it look like numbness, irritability, distancment, autopilot, constant exhaustion, emotionally flat. Sometimes it look like you're a man sitting in the driveway after work trying to mentally prepare yourself to walk into your home while quietly feeling disconnected from yourself. And you know, that's real because a lot of men realize this or try not to realize it. And maybe that's you right now. Maybe your life looks fine on paper, but internally something just feels off. Maybe you've been moving for so long that you forgot to stop and ask yourself, where's all this actually going? And bro, I need you to hear me clearly on this. Feeling directionless doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you have failed or become a failure. It doesn't mean your life is over. Sometimes it simply means that you spent so many years surviving, performing, providing, and carrying responsibilities that somewhere in the middle of all of it, you lost connection with yourself. And I think that a lot of men are quietly waking up to that reality right now. Not because they hate their lives, but because deep down, they know they were created for more than just surviving, more than just functioning, more than just existing on autopilot. And you know what? Maybe the first step is finally being honest enough to admit that something inside me feels disconnected and I don't want to keep drifting through my own life anymore. And the honesty matters more than most men realize because you don't discover direction until you first admit that you felt lost.